Congressman, thank you so much for joining us today. You are a member of the House Armed Services Committee, but it's my understanding that you were not briefed today. Why did the entire House Armed Services and Intel committees not receive a briefing today? Great question. You know, the Admiral was brought in to the leaders of both the Armed Services and the Intel Committee, as I understand it, House and Senate. The full committees need to hear from certainly the Admiral, who by all accounts is a good and decent guy who served the country, but he's not the only one who was involved here. That's up to and including the secretary. There are lots of folks, as I understand it, who were involved. We should get to the bottom of who knew what, who gave what kind of orders, what they were seeing in real time on that video feed. I think the public ultimately will need to see this. These are serious, serious accusations. We got to get to the bottom of exactly what happened, who knew what, who gave what kind of orders.
It strikes me, Congressman, that the secretary's critique of you and your fellow lawmakers was that clarity is necessary in the military structure, and that you were somehow offering a lack of clarity. There seems to be no clarity from this secretary about what actually happened vis-a-vis this strike off the coast of Venezuela. It also occurs to me that we're talking a lot, rightfully, about the secretary. We're talking a lot about Admiral Bradley, but it is also worth talking about a commander-in-chief who at one time tells you he is confident in his Secretary of Defense, but also says that he would not have wanted a second strike on that boat. Which is it? How can you be confident in someone who is issuing an order you yourself would not approve unless, in fact, you do stand behind it?
Well, I think you get right to the heart of it. If you're this president, my goodness, this secretary is not serving you well. You're the commander-in-chief. You need the best person possible in that job. Pete Hegseth is not the best person in America to be the Secretary of Defense. I don't think that's a controversial opinion. I mean, I have in front of me the Inspector General report about his misuse of signal. This is amateur stuff. We need the best leading the Pentagon, leading our military. Pete Hegseth has failed in many ways, and certainly putting pilots at risk, as the Inspector General has found, putting operational details at risk. That is not what we expect of a Secretary of Defense in the United States.
Not only has Pete Hegseth failed as Secretary of Defense, shouldn't be in the job in my view, but he's also at odds with himself because he clearly doesn't understand or remember what he said in 2016 on the very subject of illegal orders. Let's take a listen to that, shall we?
If you're doing something that is just completely unlawful and ruthless, then there is a consequence for that. That's why the military said it won't follow unlawful orders from their commander-in-chief.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
Mr. Secretary, you can refuse illegal orders. Who knew? Congressman?
What Pete Hegseth said is essentially the same thing we said, which is the law. And it tells you something that, at least back then, when you know it, Barack Obama was president, Pete Hegseth would say the basic thing about the law. More direct even, talking about the commander-in-chief at the time. And yet, today, when we say the law, what's the response of Donald Trump? Hang him, arrest him, kill him.
Right.
That tells you something about him more than anything else.
You know, the point that you're making, we had retired Lieutenant General Mark Hertling on our show earlier this week. It was yesterday. General Hertling was here. And he brought up Secretary Hegseth's time serving in Iraq and how that really formulated a lot of his thoughts. And he wrote about this on Monday for the Bulwark. I want to read this. He says, Hegseth frequently cites two moments from his Iraq experience as forming his worldview on military justice and rules of engagement. The first is a 2005 rules of engagement briefing by a JAG officer that he attended and which he has repeatedly described as excessively restrictive and, in his view, dangerous.
Video shows two men sitting without shirts atop a portion of a capsized boat that was still above water. That portion, Smith said, could barely have fit four people. It looks like two classically shipwrecked people, Smith said, but in the briefing, lawmakers were told it was judged these two people were capable of returning to the fight, Smith added. He called it a highly questionable decision that these two people on that obviously incapacitated vessel were still in any kind of fight. Congressman Smith is going to join me in just a moment, but several other Democrats who viewed the footage shared his concerns.
What I saw in that room was one of the most troubling things I've seen in my time in public service. You have two individuals in clear distress, without any means of locomotion, with a destroyed vessel, who are killed. by the United States. Any American who sees the video that I saw will see the United States military attacking shipwrecked sailors. Bad guys, but attacking shipwrecked sailors.
Video was very disturbing, and I think Congress needs to see it. I'm going to say what the video was very troubling, and I think more people need to see it. But I want to better understand process, justification.
She eventually retracted after it became public. He also paid $50,000 to a woman who says he sexually assaulted her at a conservative conference in 2017. According to the police report that she filed, he physically blocked the woman from leaving her hotel room, took her phone, and then assaulted her, all while her husband and children were staying in the same hotel. Hegseth denies doing anything wrong. He said it was a consensual affair and called the settlement a nuisance suit. So here we are. That guy runs the Department of Defense. He's sharing highly sensitive information in group chats with reporters and his wife and who knows who else, and ordering the killing of shipwrecked people in the high seas. Congressman Adam Smith is a Democrat of Washington. He's the ranking member of the Armed Services Committee. He watched that full video of the strike today, and he joins me now. Congressman, thank you for making time with us. I guess we quoted some of your impression of it. I wonder if you could just characterize for our audience that hasn't been able to see the video what you saw and what your reaction was to it.
Sure. I mean, first of all, we need to be clear. There was no fog of war. They had a clear vision of these two people on top of what was left of their capsized boat for quite a while. I think it was somewhere between 45 minutes and an hour after the initial strike. So they could see clearly what was going on. First. Second, I saw Senator Cotton say that the two gentlemen were trying to turn their boat back up, I guess. That is patently ridiculous. That boat wasn't going anywhere. And by the way, that's not the justification that Admiral Bradley even offered. So it's two people sitting on a tiny little portion of a boat sticking out of the water that's capsized. Now, the justification for this was that it was possible that the cocaine was still, I guess, underneath that small portion of the boat that remained, and these two people were not completely disabled. I mean, they were in the middle of an ocean sitting on, a capsized boat. So conceivably, they could, quote, get back into the fight. I mean, that's really, really questionable in those circumstances, but it also underpins the entire problem with this mission. What is the fight exactly that these two were going to get back into? Yes, drugs are a major problem in the U.S., but these people were trafficking cocaine thousands of miles from the U.S. with drugs that may or may not even have been headed to the United States. So, yeah, the video is really troubling. And if people see it, I don't think it's going to be good for Secretary Hegseth or this administration.
Do you think people should see it?
Yes, 100%. There's nothing classified about this. Nothing at all. Also, should be nothing classified about the Office of Legal Counsel memo that lays out the very, very highly debatable legal justification for doing these strikes in the first place. So that, too, should be public, and we should have a public hearing. Secretary Hegseth should come before our committee and the American people, explain what he's doing, and justify it. Because this is I don't think it's justifiable. I think we need more public exposure on that.
There has been some conflicting reporting about the timeline here. Initial reporting from the Washington Post indicated that it was a matter of minutes in which whoever had eyes on this could see that there were these two individuals who were shipwrecked. I read another report, I believe, in the Wall Street Journal that said it was an hour. Could you tell from timestamps or the video you saw what the timeline was like?
It was closer to an hour. And that's another thing that's interesting about this. From the moment this broke, and we wouldn't be having this conversation if it wasn't for the Washington Post. Because even though they publish all of the videos of all of the strikes, they didn't release the video of this strike. And I don't think that was an accident. So since that time, remember, first of all, Secretary Hegseth, fake news didn't happen, never happened. And then he said, well, it happened, but that guy did it.
Democrats have exposed Trump here, and they've cleaved the Republican Party, and they've also cleaved what is a more GOP bloc than a lot of others in society. Because right now, this is dividing Republicans. And Democrats have played this well. They've played this well. They've played this not from the military is bad angle, but that Trump and Hegseth have besmirched the legacy of the men and women who have served, are serving, and will serve. And by doing so, they have taken up the mantle of being the defenders of not only the law, in terms of civilian law, but also law of war, like even within warfare, the law of doing warfare honorably. But they've also now taken up the mantle as the defenders of the military against cronies like Trump and Hegseth that would seek to use and abuse the military for their own nefarious purposes, right? And so Republicans are divided. Yes, some Republicans are going to stick by Trump and defend it no matter what he does, but others are speaking out. And this is totally, guys, look, I'm not trying to make a conspiracy theory here, but like you could not have timed any of this any better. Remember, it was less than 2 weeks ago, I think, that Mark Kelly and I think Senator Slotkins and many others, Ted Lieu, I think was part of a group of Democrats in the House and Senate that have been veterans, that have served their country. They all came out and said, we are saying as elected representatives, as Americans, and as people who have served, it is important in these key moments to disobey illegal and immoral orders from Trump and from Hegseth. And they got a lot of heat. And days later, they got a perfect example of what they want to see. These are the illegal orders that you are supposed to resist. These are the moments where you need to speak up against the commander-in-chief and his chief representative, the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth. The Democrats have proven their case correctly in a matter of days when it might have taken years if Trump and Hegseth weren't so evil.